Friends, Floridians, favored patrons and subscribers, folk of all stripes. It's Florida Man here, so please lend me your ears. It's come to my attention that there might be some demand for videos on persuasive messaging, so we're doing a little experiment. Today, I bring you a video on my persuasion efforts from a specific game, one in which I believe that my persuasion efforts were specifically key to my success and survival. This was requested by one of our patrons, so if you enjoy this, you can thank Teddy. The game is one you're already familiar with if you've watched my After Action reports. This is specifically about Quest for Europe. In 1904 of that game, Italy stabbed me, and he sent me a message reflecting on his decision, which read as follows. Good morning. It took a ton of thinking before I made my decision to turn on you, but the decision is made, possibly for the worse, possibly in my favor. Your skill level, to be honest, has had me scared of a stab at any given time, and I think it was an eventuality. Two underdogs in the same area of the map working together towards a possible draw, where one of them would rather go for a solo sooner or later, at least that's my assessment. Your ability to convince other players to do work in your favor is commendable, however destabilizing to enter into a long-term alliance with. I believe my moves will put a definitive end to our cooperation in this edge-of-your-seat game, and I truly hope there are no hard feelings. I saw the opportunity and went for it. We will see soon enough if it spells a grand payoff or my undoing. Best regards and good luck, Italy. You can really tell from the way he words the message that there is actually no ill will between us, at least not an overflowing amount of it, which is already an excellent state of affairs. You don't want someone to be stabbing you out of sheer malice, because that's a hard state of affairs to deal with, diplomatically. If Italy is sincere in saying that he was basically afraid of me, that's a great situation because being intimidating is a strong position psychologically, even if it does put you occasionally in the situation where somebody wants to stab you so that you won't be able to possibly stab them later. So my response doesn't have to do the impossible here. I try to be persuasive with it, but I'm not making a hard sell right now. This is the wrong moment for it, and I don't want to convey either too much desperation to mend the relationship or too much eagerness to fight. I write, Good morning, Italy. I thought I saw something like this coming, but I hoped that by being reasonable about the dispersal of centers, I could avoid this outcome. I'm naturally disappointed to have to fight you now, but we will see where the situation leads. Perhaps it will leave me worse off, perhaps it will end in my favor. I certainly respect the decision, though I think it's probably to both our detriment. You beat me in our fight, you alarm France and Germany and end up in a 3 or 4 power draw with them and possibly Russia. You lose and the same happens, except I'm the one who has the misfortune of winding up in the situation you'd be in. The third alternative is that we remain bogged down in fighting until the West is settled, and someone, or both Westerners, come for us. 2 out of 3 are very bad outcomes for you, and 2 out of 3 are very bad outcomes for me. Needless to say, I think that between the two of us, we could have done better. Perhaps that's over now. I will remain open in case you change your mind. For now, of course, it's war. I put a smiley face at the end of that. Best wishes, Turkey. If I honestly review my situation at the time I sent this message, I was in a tight spot, and I knew it. I was counting on still working with Italy at that moment, so he had me out of position at the time of the stab. After the build, my disadvantage would be even more apparent, with Italy getting a new army and a new fleet. Even now, though, I could see the writing on the wall. However, I tried to maintain a brave face in the message. I don't think it's ever wise to tell your opponent that you don't think you can win against them unless you feel your back is against the wall and you're ready to try the surrender tactic, which I've referred to previously. I wasn't quite ready to do that yet here, and I think it's unwise to be too pessimistic about your chances in communications, because you're either telling the other person something he already knew, because he wouldn't have attacked you if he didn't think he could win, or you're reinforcing the guy's confidence, which is counterproductive if you're hoping to get him to back down. Bluffing is very much preferable to folding too early in the situation where you and your opponent seem close to evenly matched, even if a perceptive player looking at it in a hard-nosed way would recognize that one, in this case Italy, has the advantage. I tried to persuade through a few different methods here. One is that I frame it as if I think each of us has an equal chance of winning, which is not actually true at all. Another is that when I predict the future, I provide realistic options for how things could go, which lends my predictions credibility. But at the same time, the way I describe those scenarios is clearly loaded, so as to make Italy doubt the wisdom of his stabbing me. What I don't do is try to argue that Italy and I were so good together, and how can he do this to me, or something to that effect, Because the cold reality is that persuasion is not about bringing up the past, whether it be about past relations, debts owed to you, or anything similar. The past is meaningless compared with the future, and bringing history up will inevitably make the other person wonder, "But what have you done for me lately?" You may also recall my last line, in which I said that for now, of course, it's war. I also threw a smiley face in there, just to give my opponent a slight sense that I might be looking forward to testing my strength against his. That little extra touch is meant to psych Italy out, meant to make him second-guess himself a little. The whole message is not expected to persuade Italy to stop attacking me. My assumption is, in a situation like this, is that the player has resolved himself, and generally nothing will stop him at this moment, unless I have good reason based on the person's character to believe otherwise. If a player's mind could be changed that easily without any solid reasons, and the truth is I don't have any solid reasons to present, that person would be much too flaky to rely on as an ally anyway. So the message here is instead supposed to lay the psychological groundwork for him to change his mind more easily later, either because something unexpected happens, or because the conversation continues and that little seed of doubt that I've planted here begins to grow. Italy takes this response really well. He says, "I appreciate your reply." Many a player take it too personally and lash out in rudeness. I'm not a great, or for that matter, even a frequent stabber for that very reason, Italy. I keep the conversation going, and I send a message in which I'm trying to be charming, and to increase the sense that Italy and I basically agree on how the game should be played. I think the players who go dead silent when stabbed are worse, I say. It's a little unnerving, whereas I can usually laugh off the people who get rude. I do dislike rudeness, though. I'd say I usually try to stay faithful to one ally for most of a game. I suppose that would make me a somewhat infrequent stabber too. Signed, Russia. So I signed the message Russia, and that was actually not on purpose at all. It was because I was in a couple of other games at the time, and I forgot which country I was playing in this one. Your Florida man can be a bit of an airhead sometimes. Anyway, Italy responds to this with humor, commenting, "P.S. You're Turkey, not Russia, winky face." Ultimately, my messages to other powers, requesting support of whatever kind they might be willing to grant, are unsuccessful, so my next response to Italy is where I try the surrender tactic. Because by this point, it's clear I don't think I'm going to win this fight. "Look, Germany," I say, winky face, "you've got me pretty much beaten, and this last season proves it. I've been unable to secure assistance from Russia, Austria, or any of our Western fellows. I'm clearly unable to fight against your superior strategy and forces. So I could fight as hard as possible to hold out and wait, hoping for reinforcements, or I could fold and you could go attack France. Truth be told, I like the cut of your jib. The way you stabbed me was very admirable, and I respect the skill you've shown. So I would like to help you. My specific proposal is that you take some of my centers to make me less threatening, but leave me others, and I'll use them to finish off Russia and then go pester Germany. It's your best chance of getting the solo, and it's my tiny chance of surviving into the draw. You keep a minor power alive, let me act as a distraction for the other major powers, who I'm also ticked at because they ignored my pleas for help, and of course you'd always have me at your mercy as well, and be able to finish me should I disobey your directives. You have me at your sword point, and hence, you can afford to be merciful. You leave me alive as your janissary with however many centers you think you can spare me while keeping me useful, and I will busy myself with finishing off the Austrians and Russians and attacking Germany. I will of course change my course of action if it doesn't suit your plans. Would that be agreeable to you? I would like to think that there's a lot going on here. I start out with my signature goofy sense of humor, calling him Germany, among other things, and then I mix honesty and flattery with my ensuing lines. I was actually willing to be reduced to half my size and become an Italian janissary at this point, because the alternative was death, although of course I would always be hoping for a Turkish resurrection. I think the most important part of my message, besides the fact that it came after a string of messages in which Italy and I had a positive dialogue, was the appeal to Italy's greed. I spend a significant amount of time selling him on the idea that I'll make him into a massive power and possible winner, without overselling the case. Greed is one of the most powerful persuasive forces I'm aware of, although it's surpassed by fear in a lot of cases. However, fear is only powerful if the fear is credible, whereas in this situation it was much more plausible to make an effective appeal to greed. I should also note that the best arguments tend to use a combination of logos, pathos, and ethos, and I think I hit all of those here. The ethos aspect is establishing my credibility and character to support my argument. Here, one thing that is key is that earlier I was acting as if I thought either Italy or I might be able to win the fight. At the outset of this message, I admit that Italy has me beaten. There's an honesty and humility there that makes the entire rest of the message more credible, more believable, because I've already admitted to something that Italy may have just been realizing himself. The pathos aspect is the appeal to emotion, essentially. This isn't entirely calculated, but it sort of emerges naturally in the conversation. If you've been talking to someone, and you're very cordial together, it's hard to motivate yourself to screw the other person over. I think Italy's and my shared humor, and the fact that here I express admiration of him, appreciation for his planning, and willingness to support him because of those factors, is a very emotionally appealing line of reasoning. It's not exactly logical, but it's something that a person would naturally want to believe. I didn't write it in a calculated way, but the whole style of communication is expected to achieve a certain effect, and the effect of emotional entanglement is certainly part of what I'm aiming at. Finally, the logic is in the fact that there is genuine potential advantage for Italy in my offer. Creating a janissary is, in my view, essentially the best way to solo a game of diplomacy. If I follow through with what I've described to Italy, the benefits to him really could be staggering. As you may remember, however, if you've watched the after-action report for this game, what actually happened was that Italy allowed me to become his janissary, so the persuasion effort there was clearly successful. But he also got himself embroiled in a fight in the west, without ever bothering to weaken me very much, or having enough units to leave behind that he could pick off a few of my centers. The natural result of all this was the defeat of Italy, and a final draw that did include my nation of Turkey. I hope you've enjoyed this analysis of one specific aspect of the game, referencing one specific game. If you did, you too can participate in helping me make and promote great diplomacy content, either by joining my supporters on Patreon or by writing subtitles for the videos in other languages, in addition to liking, subscribing, and commenting, all of which helps this channel grow. If you'd like to see further videos around persuasive messaging in diplomacy, please comment below to express your interest. And I would like to briefly thank the people who are already helping me out via the methods I've mentioned, whose names and screen names are on the screen now. Let's keep going and make this the biggest diplomacy community out there. Let's try and hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year. Until next time, Florida Man out.